Hello fast learners, my name is Katerega James. Welcome to our YouTube channel where we bring knowledge closer to you by just a single button click. So today we are going to look at what we call operations research. So what is operations research? So operations research has a number of definitions, and operation research is simply an approach to the analysis of operations, in that it can be either to a greater or lesser extent. So it involves things like the scientific methods, whereby the scientific methods here we look at the observation, we look at the hypothesis, we look at the deductions, we look at the experimentations, then we look at different things as far as possible. So it also looks at what we call the explicit formulation of complex relationships. It can also be looking at what we call the interdisciplinary nature, in that it involves teams, it involves different personnel with different backgrounds, where we look at the engineers, we look at the mathematicians, we look at the scientists, and so forth. So that is operations research. Someone else can say that operations research is simply a scientific approach to the analysis and solution to the management of a problem. Then operation research can be an attack. It can be an attack of modern science on complex problems, whereby we look at it arising and in the direction and management of what we call the large systems. This large system whereby it comprises of the men, it comprises of the machines, it comprises of the tools, it comprises of materials. It can be in an industry, it can be in businesses, and it can be in government and defense as well. So it can be also a systematic application of what we call the quantitative methods. They can be the techniques, they can be the tools to the analysis of problems involving operation of systems. Therefore, one needs to understand that operation research also can be a collection of models and methods which have developed largely independently of one another. So therefore, one should understand that operations research is a team effort. So team effort in that it comprises of different personnel, it comprises of different people from different backgrounds. These may be the engineers, they may be the statisticians, they can be the physiologists, they can be the accountants. All those people come together as a team in order to carry out what we call operations research. So we have what we call characteristics of operations research. So operations research is comprised of what we call the system orientation. So system orientation, this is concerned with a problem as a whole. It can be a system orientation. So this means that the activity of any part of an organization has the same effect on the activity of every part. So one has to evaluate the decision in order to identify all the possible interactions and determine their impact on the organization as a whole. So that is system orientation. Then we have another characteristic like interdisciplinary team. So interdisciplinary team, this is where I've told you we come together as different personnel with different backgrounds. The philologists, we look at the economists, we look at the engineers, we look at the operation research team, experts as well. So they come together to identify the problem. Then we have another characteristic, that is application of scientific methods. So scientific methods here, this time around, we have to use the scientific methods in order solving the problem of the operations research. So it is related to like a laboratory, only that it is an experimentation. It's not like biology, it's not like physics, it's not like chemistry where you carry out experiments, but it is a real life experimentation. I get it. It's a real life experiment. So you need to understand that application of scientific method, you involve use of scientific methods. Then we have the quantitative solutions. These involve collection of data. You can get data from either existing records or you make a survey to collect data. Then after you make what we call a decision. You make a decision for the problem. Then you have a human factor as another characteristic. Human factor has to be available, because if the human factor is not available, then operations research is incomplete. Then we have what we call the phases of operation research. These are like stages. How do we carry out operation research? What are the different stages we follow when carrying out operation research? That is what we call formulation of the problem. So to find the solution of the operation research, you must formulate what you call the problem. But you create a problem in that you form what we call an appropriate model. It's like a design to solve the problem. But you making the appropriate model, you have to involve things like the decision. There has to be a decision maker. There has to be objectives. Objectives, these are the aims of the model. You have to look at things like the controllable factors, the non-controllable factors, these are the variables. Then you have to look at the restrictions. Restriction in that I'm talking of constraints. What are the limitations that hinder carrying out that model in order to solve the problem? Then we have another stage, which is data collection. When it comes to data collection, that means you need to collect data from different sources. It can either be from existing records or in its new survey. You make a survey, you collect data in order to construct the model for the problem. Then the third stage would be deriving the solution from the model. So this involves manipulation of the model. You manipulate the model in order to arrive to the best solution to the problem. Then the fourth stage will be testing the model and its solution. So testing helps you to identify the errors. There can be mistakes that may hinder your model from solving the problem. Then we have the fifth stage, that is controlling the solution. How do you control the solution such that it does not go beyond your boundaries, such that you attain what we call a high degree of satisfaction, that whatever you've created, whatever solution you've given, it solves the problem. Then lastly, it will be implementation of the model. This is the final phase of the operations research. Here you do what we call, you implement the optimum solution derived by the operation research team. So those are the different phases. They are the stages. Then we have what we call the quantitative techniques of operation research. These ones I'm not going to talk about them in too details, but at least I'm going to be giving you something that in the next video I'll be trying to explain each of them, because they involve calculation, they involve collection of data and manipulating it. So here we're going to look at linear programming. We shall look at nonlinear programming. We shall look at the integer programming. We shall look at dynamic programming, goal programming, inventory program control, simulation, and so forth. So that is what we're going to be looking at operations research. But before I go further, there is what we call the scope of operation research. Where is operation research used? Are you getting it? It's like the application. Different fields make use of operations research. Here we have what we call an industry. When it comes to an industry, here we look at the fields of production. We look at the blending in that we look at the product mix. We look at the inventory control. We look at the demand forecast. We look at the sale and purchase. We look at the transportation, repair and maintenance. Some of you study what we call plant maintenance. So all that involves what we call operations research. We look at a field like defense. We look at the Air Force. We may look at the Army. We may look at the Navy. It is also helpful to them in achieving what we call the desired goals of these different agencies. It can be looked at in planning, because we know very well in an organization, planning is a very key factor. It's an important function in management. So without effective planning, we cannot achieve required goals. Therefore, operations research has to be put into consideration. We look at public utilities. Public utilities in that we look at organizations. They can be small or big organizations. We can look at businesses in society. So that is public utilities. All these involve operations research. It can be also in agriculture. I'm getting. So operations research has a lot of fields. I'm getting it. So that is, it's an introduction to operations research. It's there to give you an overview, such that by the time we give out other lecture notes, by the time we give out other presentation, you have a clue. We shall be looking at the different models of operations research in details. We shall look at the advantages. We shall look at the limitations of operations research. What hinders operations research to be carried out in these specific fields. We're going to see at applications of operations research. How is it applied? How does it involve? I'm getting it. So that is going to be what we are going to be looking at. Thank you for today. That's what I had for you. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for listening. We love you. Don't forget to comment.